Welcome to the show.
All right. I like that perky
So
music. Gets me awake enough to be able to actually do this show. It's still really early in my morning over here on the left coast of the U.S., so it's
I
always early.
I've had a summer cold the past few days. I've just been out of it on medication.
I've had like allergic reactions, which I used to get as a kid, and then went away as an adult, and now I've come back. I think they've got new breeds of pollen that I'm not yet resistant to, so
Yeah.
I'm sniffling a bit today too. So please bear with me, people, as I take care of my nose occasionally.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
We'll live.
that's how
We'll
it
live.
goes.
Right.
Yeah, we'll
For another
survive.
show.
I've made it this
Uh,
long. I made it to 63. I should probably be able to make it to 64 if I just keep doing the same stuff, right? Hopefully.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Right.
Do's and
Let's
don'ts.
let's do do's and don'ts. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, we'll do introduction. Hang on a minute. My name's Simon Lightfoot, Flutter Community
Okay.
Leader, CTO of Dev Angels London, at Dev Angels London on any social media or thereabouts. Randall.
I'm Randall Schwartz. I'm a Dart and Flutter Google developer expert, one of about 12 in North America, and been around the program for about almost 7 years now, somewhere in there. And I answer lots and lots and lots of questions all over the net. I'm everywhere, all over the net. Every time somebody just mentions Flutter, it sort of sparks up something, and I go running over there. Oh, you're talking about Flutter? All right, cool. So
It's like
I'm everywhere for that.
You say Flutter 3 times and Randall pops up.
I do. It's kind of the way it works out. Somehow my big ear just keeps listening for all of that. But for this show, I have a particular role in that I am the question magician, which means that I am watching the chat, the live chat on YouTube. YouTube only. I know we're broadcasting in a couple other places, but I'm only watching on YouTube, so bear with me for that. And then if you put Q-colon in front of your question and you post it to the YouTube chat, I will flag it so that we will come back and answer it in the order that we see them. So please get your questions in early and you get your answers early.
Yes, indeed. Danielle and John can't be with us today, but we'll see if we can join anyone else today. But for the moment, it'll just be us and we'll get some live coding, I guess.
Yes.
Do's and don'ts. Randall, please.
So be nice, be respectful, be constructive. You're talking to actual human beings through the chat. They're not just a bunch of bots, although I still have no evidence that I'm not a bot. So let's see. Don't post anything if it's adult or rude or offensive. Do not advertise or promote anything. The only people who are allowed to promote things are people with their faces on the screen. My face is on the screen, so I can promote anything I want because that's how the show works. Don't spam. Don't post the same thing again and again. And not only is it annoying, it also means that if you post a question and then 20 minutes later post the same question again, I take you out of the queue for the first one and put you into the queue for the second one. So you lose your place in line. So don't do that either. Harassment of any kind, not tolerated. We have ban hammers. We use them. Do have a good time, though. I have a good time sharing the information I know Simon does as well. So we expect y'all to kind of live off that aura and have a good time as well. I never know what I'm going to say there. This is a random phrase every time. All right.
It's going to be fun. If you want to get code with us, then you need to go to gist.new. You can log in with your GitHub credentials, pop in a description, anything you like. Make sure the file name's ends in .dart. Got where you like .dart. Pop in your code and any comments or questions or whatever you want in there. If you want to share some sort of something for us to review or whatever, and then post it. I believe it can be secret. I know it says public in here, but I believe it can be secret. I'm not sure though. So, but anyway, if you get the hash from the URL, and as 0.6 shows, pop that into your message in the YouTube channel. We can look it up. This is key because any message that you send that has a link in it, a full link like HTTP, blah 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 blah, in the chat will get your whole message will not come through, not just the link, the entire message. So don't do that. Don't do that. Okay. Yeah. So again, just post the hash in the chat. Right. Oops. Anyway.
And you alluded to it just there, but I just want to remind everybody, if you post any kind of a full URL, we can't see it. It doesn't even show up for us as being moderated. It just disappears out of the system. So we often get people saying, why didn't you look at the question I posted earlier? And we say, did it have a URL in it? Well, yeah. Well, there's your problem. Okay. I'm doing voices today. Why am I doing so many voices already? This is too early in the show to be doing voices.
I'm going to apologize now for the sniffles. Sorry. Hopefully it doesn't come through, but yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, so news this week, I guess. Something I saw this morning. I woke up to Todd moving away from the Flutter team. So Todd's been on the running the engineering, Flutter engineering team for a while. In terms of, I know his roles changed over the years in 2 different places, but very much on the engine side of things, the low levels, and running that. And then so I just saw someone he's moved over to Apple and Swift UI, and I know that's where Tim Sneath moved over to, and I know they're good friends, so it kind of makes sense. So good luck to him and all his future endeavors. That doesn't stop us from moving forward in what we're doing with Flutter and everything else in the Flutter community. So no big change there. I will say just another bonus. Say yes, we say Flutter, but actually we are community members. We're not part of the Flutter team, so we have no magical insights more than anyone else. And any direction that we would recommend the team do would just be the same as anyone else. We just pop up a issue ticket and hope for the best.
Yeah,
so
I do have to remind people occasionally, even though I keep calling myself a Google developer expert here. Yes, it's a Google sanctioned program, but I don't actually work for Google. I'm an unpaid volunteer for Google. So yeah, keep that clear. I do not work for Google. It might be nice to work for Google. I got spam today that said from the recruiter for Google, and I went, I don't think so. It's a Gmail address. It's just a Gmail address. Come on. Always check from.
I tell you what I've seen, actually, saying that. I tell you what I've seen.
Yeah.
Recently, I've been getting spam on my Google account, and it's on Gmail. And what it is, they send to a google.com address, which doesn't exist. And they're sending it from a Gmail address. And what happens is Google.com bounces back to Gmail, and then I get the spam come through on Gmail. So what they're doing is they're using the internal redirect system that happens for inside of Google to deliver spam to people. So there's obviously some bug in the mail configuration on Gmail for that one. But I mean, like, I want to report these things, but it's like, could you report it too? Like, you follow these things, and it's just like, good luck. But don't make it easy.
Your video is pausing. I don't know if it's just me or the world, but
please tell us if there's a problem with the video or audio. Tell us in the chat, and we'll see what we can do. At the moment, it's fine.
The audio sounds fine. The audio sounds fine, but the video is pausing. It's a little weird.
Let's carry on, and if anyone's got a problem, we'll see what we can do. Otherwise, we'll
okay. Seemed fine here. It says free. So it's me. It's all me. It's blame whatever Xfinity or whatever it's called here. Yeah.
Callie, you're welcome to join us on the stream.
Yeah.
Pray as well if you want to.
Always.
We've got a quiet day today. So I actually mentioned this to you that so we're just filling time right now, everyone, to get your questions in, and then we'll carry on with the Q&A.
Great.
I found that we were talking about the other day about like the fact that Humpday is very much long form content, and it's very hard for us to kind of promote the rewatchability of it. Well, turns out I found Opus Clips is an online AI thing where you pop it your video and then it will chop out the short clips, like a minute clip of. And I put through the last video, and it got some really good ones on there from our Q&A. The problem is, Randall, is you ask all the questions out loud, what it does is it chops you asking the question, me answering the question. I'm not sure what to do with it, to be honest, because it really makes sense, because people get those tidbits of information, like the questions and answers out there, and it'd be popular. I know it would. However, it will put you in a position of, I'm the one always asking the questions from your side. So we need to discuss that one further. I think it'll be fine, because anyone, like, we would have them redirect to the main video and people would get the idea, I think. But, it's a shame, like, because there's no, like, we would have to edit in the official, like, the questions at the bottom of the screen and actually do it ourselves, I think, if we wanted to, like, edit it better, as it were. I'm not sure what's involved in doing that.
I've got a Descript license too, and it'll do things like I can drop in a YouTube link, and it will download that file and make that the editing file that I'm working on, and it has all sorts of AI in terms of being able to extract segments or
Well,
headlines or subject lines and stuff. So
so
maybe I'll try
far,
those.
you can, we actually, one of the options for this AI thing was Q&A. And I gave it that, and it detected it perfectly. So I think it might be nice to trying this out and see what happens. I
Yep.
think maybe it's a case. Maybe it's a case, Randall. When you read off the questions, say their
Yeah.
person's name
Uh,
asks this. Does that kind of make sense?
then I
Maybe
got
it's
to
so.
learn how to pronounce people's names.
Well,
I'm
I'm thinking
careful
about most.
avoiding it this
Well,
way.
I don't think people understand if they got like a hard name to pronounce. But I'm
Yeah.
thinking like maybe that's the middle ground, because then when it cuts it, it's going to be this part. You're reading off their question, and it's obvious, right?
Yeah.
I know we'll have to figure it out. I mean, these are the
Yeah.
fun things of modern day technology.
Or we could write an app in Gemini that pulls down the video, and
It,
analyzes it
I
whatever way
mean,
we want to.
if it was if it became like super expensive to, I run it and then see how good it is. But equally,
Yeah.
who has the? I mean, I don't have the time to
Well,
do that.
we can get cloud credits. That's pretty simple. We have friends in the right places,
Yeah.
so
Well,
no big deal. Well, I do. I have cloud credits up the wazoo. I can do anything I want. So yeah, maybe we'll see. Cool.
until we get to.
Just before we get too distracted by actual questions, I was on Observable Flutter last Thursday. It went really well. So the first time 3 weeks earlier, I was using Gemini CLI to remake the app in one session that Craig Lebenz, the host of the show, made in 3 sessions over the previous 3 shows, and we did it all with just I don't want I keep automatically calling it vibe coding, but it's AI assisted programming
Mhm.
and using standard engineering practices. So we made a PRD, we made steps, we had each step be testable.
Yeah, I watched
We
some of it. Yeah.
revised the plan when we needed to. Right. So I drove for the first show, which is 3 or 4 weeks ago, somewhere in there, and he took it over for this previous the show that we just did last Thursday, and pretty much completed the project. In fact, we were both surprised. We said, "Wait, are you actually testing to see if the file's there or not?" Oh, look, the file's there. The file we were hoping it'd be there. It's already there. It's already doing the work. So we actually completed the project with him driving for the final half. So that was fun. That was actually really fun. And I've been doing a lot of other things with Gemini CLI inside VS Code as being my preferred way. And the reason I'm liking Gemini CLI is I can also use it as a smart shell. So I can, if I got a task to do, I've got a bunch of files that need processing a certain way, I can pop open a Gemini CLI in that directory and say, I've got a bunch of files here, and this is what I want to do with them. I don't have to remember the command. I don't even have to Google for the command of what FFmpeg flags I need to use, which I can never remember. Um, and then cut and paste that. It just does it. I just say, I want to do this, and it says, oh, how
Still,
about this command?
I still
It's
have
wonderful.
not. I've still have not tried out Dart MCP or Gemini CLI
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah,
Do
you
it.
should definitely check those out. It's definitely changing the way I've been tweaking on a couple of personal projects and getting it, better UI and more interactive and things like that. I've been tweaking, my own apps. Nothing I've maybe something I might want to publish someday. I mean, a couple apps I'm looking at publishing. So I'm glad I'm able to move that forward. And then I go write the documentation for this. And so it makes a wonderful README that has all the right stuff. It correctly interprets the intent of things I put in the code.
Right.
It does it all without reading the comments because I don't have any comments in my code. So it was nice. So yeah, good luck with that. Cool.
Right.
Also,
Should we?
we are taking a break on the AI show, so there won't be an AI show next Monday. And we're going to take a couple week break while people are traveling and finishing up the conference season this year. And then we'll be resuming soon with some. We got some Googlers lined up for that show, so that's going to be fun. That's on Mondays right here on the same channel.
So it might be next
Okay.
Monday, or might not even be
Won't
the
be
following
next
Monday.
Monday.
But
Yes.
we'll let everyone know on Hump Day when the
Yep.
next one is. But
Yep.
obviously, subscribe to the channel,
Yeah.
and you'll get notified when those things change.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yep,
we have a
cool.
few questions. If you want to go ahead and start, shall we
Go
start?
for it.
Okay. Let's see here. Oh, well, the usual question. Why don't we have this on a FAQ somewhere? How is Kotlin multi-platform different from Flutter? Well, it starts with a different letter of the alphabet.
It's a different language.
Different languages, yes.
I think that it's a lovely question. I just I've not I've not had enough experience with Kotlin multi-platform to really answer this question, as I'm not going to even attempt to answer this question. I mean, Suraj, I think the answer there is you need to say the names, at least the first names, Randall, before you ask.
Suraj.
So I think from this perspective, I think I'll just say try both yourself and let us know what you think the difference is. I mean, it's one of those things, right? I think we always knew this from the beginning of Flutter, and that is, in fact, I had the same opinion when I first started Flutter, which was, oh my God, there's another language I need to learn. It's going to be really complicated. Yeah. Why do I need to know language? Why can't I just use Kotlin? These are literally the questions we would get day in, day out, the questions that we ourselves were asking at the time, at the very beginning. And then when you start using it, you're actually, no, it wasn't a difficult language to learn. In fact, it has all the similarities in every other language. And it wasn't even remotely a problem, and Flutter solves a bunch of problems and is unique in its own way to solving these issues. Not to say that Kotlin multi-platform can't do the same, or hasn't gone in the similar direction, but yeah, without really knowing, I couldn't.
Jin has a point here. Look at this. What happened?
What's he saying?
Here.
Kotlin multi-platform
without UI code share, and Flutter is including the UI.
And then you've got Compose multi-platform, which is the essentially the replacement for Flutter, right? So it's Kotlin multi-platform with Compose multi-platform that makes the Flutter alternative.
Isn't one of these isn't one of these where you open up the source code and it looked like it was Flutter comments?
So Compose, the original what's it called? Android X. No, what was the Compose? Well, it's Compose, right? The Android library that was actually originally made from Flutter, right? So Jetpack Compose, that's the one. Thank you, Free. So what happened was, I was there at the time. From what I remember, this was a while ago. There was an announcement of Swift UI from Apple, and then Google scrambled around and went, we don't have an Android solution for this same thing that can compete like you can with there. So they scrambled around really quickly and went spoke to the Flutter team and were like, okay, look, how can we get this out on Android, blah, 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 blah. And they took all the concepts, constructors, and everything else from Flutter, made Jetpack Compose from that, and then obviously updated it, tweaked it for what they needed. And then that went out in alpha during Google I/O, which was like a month later. Like literally it was a super fast turnaround. To get basically it was an alpha, it's terrible at the time. But it got it out there. And then that's then what started the migration of Android developers over to Jetpack Compose, because actually they realized this solves all our problems, which is exactly what we were saying with Flutter from day one, right? And what Flutter does bring is more than what Jetpack Compose brings, right? Which is, it's not just like a reactive UI and responsive UI in that sense. It's more about the hot reload, hot restart. It's more about the fact that you're writing this language, you can use it on multiple platforms. There's the whole thing there, and it's like, okay, well, if we need to bring, as you said, Kotlin multi-platform isn't like where it needs to be, as far as I understand it, from what I'm hearing from other people. Then, until that is the case, then I don't think you could even say it's remotely near what could be competed with Flutter. But again, I haven't tried it, so I'm hearsay right now.
And Flutter also has a 7-year head start on everybody else now. So even
I don't want to, and the key here is not to become complacent, right? We talk about a 7-year head start, but equally, that's 7 years of code to maintain. There's 7 years, there's legacy there. Like, we need to think about, and I think this is very clear from we said from as a community from day one, when the Flutter team reached out to the community and said, like, what can we do, breaking changes? What are we going to do? Because at the very beginning, we could move really quickly because it was alpha, it was expected to break and change, and we would just go with it and fix it and just, And it's kind of interesting because on the last few releases, a lot of hot patch releases fixing like bugs, and I like that. I really like that. It means that we're keeping that, instead of just waiting for these primary releases, like stable releases, we can do stable releases with lots of hot patches to solve critical issues. So we're staying current. So we're staying on top of everything as a community. And I think that's really key from the Flutter team there. There's a really good response to that. Anyway, right.
Oh. All right, on to the next one.
And as he says there, Compose multi-platform isn't backed by Google. It's a JetBrains product.
Yeah.
Right. Preview still after changing color. Yeah. Let's see where we get to. Right, let's move on. What's the next one?
Okay, so Siraj also asks, why are Flutter developers on paid average? And also, I see very few job positions open. Why? I think it's just the economy at this point.
Yeah, I'm going to say, you say paid average. I mean, I know some pretty good, paid Flutter developers. I think that's more a case of what role you're trying to fill and what skill you're trying to fit, like anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything that's particular to Flutter developers. That, when a Flutter developer has Android, iOS, and like web experience, you're paying for 3 developers essentially, right? So they're actually higher paid, right? So you need to think about what is the job role that you're actually filling there. Fewer job positions open. I think it's more about I'm hearing about lots of companies trying to find people to fill the roles. So I think this is more about a mismatch of employee and employer sort of finding things, like recruitment catching up to the skill to everything. Like we've seen it before, like recruiters go, I want 10 years of Flutter experience. It hasn't been around that long, right?
Yeah, nobody's got that.
And I think that there's also another avenue here, which is Flutter has so there was a point, I don't know if I could say it's the same at the moment, but there was a time which was Flutter was outpacing its growth. And what I mean by that is the number of Flutter developers incoming and the marginally different skill levels, right, was outpacing the requirement that was coming in from recruitment and what employers want. For example, as I just said, an employer wants someone that's got Android experience, iOS native experience, so they can do like plugin work, and then the Flutter experience, so they can build Flutter code that interacts with both Android and iOS. And then there's a bunch of new Flutter developers coming in from, say, web that have no Android or iOS experience, and they can't fulfill those roles. So this is about skilling up as a Flutter developer. If you're doing multi-platform now, so you need to understand those multiple platforms. At least to a lesser or greater degree, you need to understand what you need to do to interact Flutter with those platforms, right? So build your own plugins, build your own packages, do that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I think there's also a disconnect out there because for the number of times I apply for a job and get rejected, the recruiters clearly aren't getting the value of my resume, and it's just annoying that I'm being so long between gigs right now. I'm kind of looking for work all the time now, so it's a little crazy. But that could also be other reasons. I mean, I have that little felony conviction in my past, and I'm old. I'm old but wise still.
It's actually that's an interesting to say that, right? I think that's another thing that we have in this industry is there's a certain amount of ageism for sure.
Yeah.
In the tech sector, when it's all young people like doing these like startups and everything else, they see another person, just don't see the value in that per se.
Right. Or they don't want to pay for my experience. They think they're going to pay through the nose for my experience. I just want a job. I just want to be working for people. That's a lot more fun that way. I'd rather be working and making at least an okay living. I'm already I live frugally. I don't have much to show for what I've got. I'm driving a 23-year-old car, that kind of stuff. So it's a classic now, but I bought it brand new. That's how long I've had my car. My wonderful Camaro Z28. I love it. It goes fast still. All right,
Okay.
moving on. That's right. Okay. I like this. This could be a coding thing. So Raheem says how to implement a Flutter fortune wheel with API sourced prizes and an outcome API call that runs during the spin without blocking the UI and then displays the result upon deceleration. No,
I mean,
you just do it. You write an animation. It's simple.
I see what he's asking, but you're saying build this for me. That's basically what you're asking for right now, right?
So he's
And
getting free
this is
labor.
the job. This is the you want to say how to do this? Well, then do that. So you said how to implement, like break it down. You've literally broken down your question. How to build a fortune wheel that's API source prizes and outcome API. Okay, so build your API, your RESTful API, have it so that you can spin the wheel. So there's like a spin wheel API, and then it returns you the the prize winner, as it were, right? Like if they won a prize or not. And that's all it is. It's just randomization, right?
Right.
And then you've got calls out the call that runs during the spin without blocking. Well, that's all API calls. They won't block. That's just a asynchronous code, right? Then you've got displays the result upon deceleration. Okay, well then on your animation deceleration, then show result that you got from the API, right? I don't think that there's like a super like complex thing that needs to be done here. I will say that I think maybe a point here that's missing in the understanding is that so in a chance of spinning a fortune wheel, right? So they do some interaction with the screen and they spin the wheel. And then what you're doing is in normal interactions, not in this interaction.
There's a knot missing there. I tried it, but I could not fix the wheel blockage during the outcome spin update. Well, keep working at it.
I don't know what to say. That's not how it works. So obviously you've got a bug in your code. Now I think this might be it. So let's go back to the original question here. Where's the original question?
I got it right.
So this is what I'm trying to get to. So look. So in the normal circumstances, let's say I have a fortune wheel they're just doing on the client side. You can't do this on client side because otherwise people will game your system because you've got prizes, right? That's what you do on the server side, right? So what you're doing here is you spin the wheel, and then what you've done is you into the animation, the spinning into the interaction of the touch gives you a velocity. That velocity transfers into some deceleration curve, right? Which is normally there's gravity simulation in Flutter, which will do that for you. You can change the gravity curve and stuff and give us something. I think there's a deceleration simulation as well. Anyway, but the point here is what's going to happen is that'll slowly slow down, and then what you're doing is you're animating the turn of the wheel based on the result of the simulation value, right? So what's going to happen is the input of it was the velocity, and then the velocity output is going to slow down over time until it comes to zero. The simulation ends and the wheel will stop moving, right? Then you go, oh, on the dial, oh, you've won a car or whatever the hell it is, right? Now, here's the trick to this. You need to reverse it, right? What you're actually doing is you call the API first. They already, at that point, like literally, they start interacting with the wheel. At that point, you're calling the API, right? And you already know what they're going to land on before they land on it because it's just random. So literally, the server just goes. You could give it like if you wanted to, you could give the acceleration of what they spun as an input parameter to your randomize to your seed if you want to. I guess it'd be pointless to be honest. Just randomly pick it. If they want a prize, right? There's a selection. If they want a prize, great. Send that back to them. Now they've won. Now what you're doing is you're just animating the screen to show that they won. Do you see what the point here is? The point here is that the acceleration has nothing to do with the curve of the wheel moving anymore, right? What you're doing is you're reversing it, right? So you're always making sure it lands on the entry that they've won. Does that make sense? There's some, you can work out what the amount of movement value should be for it to do that. You can have a number of spins you want it to rotate around before decelerating onto a particular item.
Bree is saying the Futter Belgium already has one of these.
Well, there you go. Maybe Futter Belgium want to share you the code.
And there's even a YouTube he can go watch. It's a lightning talk about how to make that work. Yeah, it's all in the chat. All in the chat.
Just don't watch it now. Watch it.
Yeah, that's right. Put that away for later. Put that down. Put the play button down. All right.
Right. Let's move on to the next question.
Yeah. Can we do clean code or river rod? I presume that's river pod.
River rod. It's Rive rod. Rive rod is a new version of river pods.
Right. So that's an option for.
I mean, we can certainly put that on the list. I mean, I'm not sure. The problem here is like your point. I get what you're asking for here, but equally, like, it's difficult to do without a scenario, right?
Yeah, and I think clean code is like a bit overrated. It seems like some sort of holy grail people keep aiming for, and really,
I mean, all my code is clean code as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Just use
break it up nicely so it's easy to read and understand, and make sure it's commented and documented. Done. There's your clean code.
Yeah. Okay.
I know the principles of solid principles of clean code and all the rest of it, and it's nice to have these things. Don't get me wrong, but don't stick your don't put your heart on it. Don't die on that sword. Right.
Yeah, especially don't argue with people over lunch at it. It's not really fun to be an argument for lunch. This one is just more of the same, should I be in this career or a different one?
Suraj, say, do you want to read off his name and that?
Okay, Suraj, should I be an expert in Flutter or should I go full stack in mobile app like Java, Swift, etc.? Personal choice. Yeah, we already covered that.
Yeah, I think I kind of follow this up with you need to know, if you're doing Flutter, it's cross-platforms. You need to know about those other technologies as well, right? You're not just building with Flutter, right? It's like if you're building a Flutter app on Windows, well, you need to understand about Windows. You're going to need to know when they go, oh, I want it to like disappear into the system pair of Windows. Well, that's no longer a Flutter thing, right? Now you need to understand how does that work on Windows? What is the system tray? How do I get to do the interaction? Is there a package for that? So I think that the key here is to understand. You need to have a little bit of understanding about all of the platforms that you want to develop for, and that's the same with any language, right? So if you're just going to go learn, Java or then you're doing whatever you can run Java on. If you're going to learn Swift, whatever Swift runs on.
Okay, and then a totally toss away question here. Can I close? Suraj once again asks, can I close or open my microwave using Dart? I know it can be funny to say. I think it's a joke.
I mean, yes.
Yes, if you have the right remote control, right?
So like to open and close your, let's say to open and close your microwave, right? That's going to have a switch, a physical operational switch on the front, right? So you're gonna need to hook that up to either a relay or a servo or probably more like a solenoid, right? And you need a little circuit to drive that solenoid. You can get these, and then you need some sort of CPU / microcontroller to drive that solenoid, right? So you get some signal from your phone or from something else, you can drive that. So Dart code can definitely be used to run on that microcontroller, or as well, more like a Raspberry Pi or whatever, and actually do all that stuff. You can have your nice UI, or you can have it from your mobile phone to do it. But you still got to have that hardware. You still got to program that firmware to get the switch to operate. And so that's the thing that you're missing, right? So Dart code can be used to open close the microwave, but you still got to actuate the switch, and that's the bit that you need to work on.
Yep. Okay, and Flutter Universe asks, as always, can we do pagination today? Yeah, we didn't.
I think we did. We did it last week, though.
Yeah, I think it's already done. Maybe Flutter Universe can give us a bit more guidance about what they think isn't already done.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, here's an actual question. Real questions. Arjun asks, any AI solution for a project that communicates all providers and provider state management and just a chat bot will get answered, don't need to navigate to specific pages. That's a little clumsy.
I get what he's getting at though, right? So what he's saying
Good.
here is there any AI solution for a project that can use providers or provider state management so that a chatbot can use the providers to get access to the thing. That's every app, right? Like you tell the AI in the prompt, do this to get information. You can ask me at any point for information about these things. This is how you ask me about this information in the prompt, right? That's what you start your chatbot with, right? The prompt. It's called a system prompt, is another name for this. Then when you get the response back in the chatbot, instead of display on the screen, you say, oh, it's asking for data about provider X value Y, the current logged in user, for example. And then you've got your little bit of code that just looks at that and goes, okay, use that provider to do that. So there isn't like an AI solution. There's no magic here, right? This is just coding, right? This is just you linking one bit of your code up to another bit of your code, right? So that's all you're doing, right? Yeah. I feel like there should be more to this, but yeah, that's it. It's that simple.
That's easy. Okay, cool.
All
right. Nope.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Okay. Techmark Go says Flutter over here, but if you could choose any other language to specialize in now, what would it be? An app or web or both? I do whatever pays me money. Well, whatever makes me feel good too, I guess. Kind of flexible that way. I've pivoted about 5-6 major times in my career, and I just enjoy the fact that I've done a lot of different things. So I don't know if there'd be any one thing I would want to expand back out into. It might, whatever's interesting and cool, or see what comes along.
So, to be honest, web is one of those things that it's kind of interesting, right? Web's always there in the background, right? It's always going to be used. There's nothing changes there, and there's always going to be a new use for every developer to understand web technology, right? But equally, it's not the same as app dev, right?
No.
Even though you can build web apps and you can build like PWAs, it's still not the same as delivering an app. It's still not the same as what you can do with an app. And I don't think it ever will have that overlap. There's just a lot of resources that are used up by browser and everything else that goes along with it that just isn't needed for an app. So that being said, like, yes, you're always going to have to keep an eye on web stuff. For me personally, I've been looking at Rust recently as just a fun thing. So look, that's why I have my
your station.
Rust station.
Yep.
In the stack. I think so I've had my eye on Rust for a long time.
Did you intend that in the stack? That was great.
Sorry, pushed the wrong button. No. What's this one? Sorry, my bad. I think I think we said about this before, but you always need to make sure that you're spending some of your time researching technologies and platforms and everything else. Like you're always going to have to do that. The one thing I think we found with Flutter is that Flutter is that UI aspect of it. It's that modern UI development that's cross-platform, meaning that I can make a Rust backend for some say video processing, and then I can have my Flutter app on top, and that's now a desktop product, right? Like you're not like previously you would be building something in like C++ or C# or whatever, and it'd be really complex to deal with all this UI interaction. That's something that the languages are maybe not best suited for. They don't have those archetypes and patterns, and now there has been things since then, but it's still not as great as what it is to do in Flutter. And I think that's that kind of aspect of choose the right tool for the right job. You shouldn't be saying, okay, you know, I'm only going to stick with Flutter, and that's the only thing, because Flutter doesn't do everything, right? Flutter's a UI framework, right? So you need to work out what you can do with it, where you can go with it, how to build certain things. I don't know if that answered your question, but yeah.
And Free has this as a follow-up. Isn't there still a high need for Cobalt devs to support old banking systems? Yeah, it's amazing how many lines of Cobalt are still in action.
Yeah, and if I remember rightly, from someone me and Randall and I, we won't bring his name up, but he used to work at the Social Security Agency in America, or whatever it is, and worked with Cobalt. And he was a new developer coming to Cobalt, and there's all these other old Cobalt guys there that are basically wanting to retire, and there's no one to take their place.
Yep.
And everyone's very much freaking out about the fact that, you know, there's going to be no one to maintain this code or to, you know, to deal with things, because there's no developers for the language anymore. So I think that there's an aspect of that which is also interesting. I think there's interest enough, like this is not the first time these things come around. Like systems are kept for a long time. When you talk about these like companies and everything else dealing with systems, it's kind of the fallacy of a company to work on. It's kind of difficult, right? So a company spends maybe millions of pounds or dollars or whatever on building some software. Then that software gets run on, let's say, run on a server, sitting there, and it's maintaining their business or doing some critical functionality. And they see that as an asset that they've invested in, right? But time is moving forward, and that is not getting the time of day it needs, it's just getting maintenance. And that's getting further and further out of date and out of sync. And now all these new systems and software and everything else has been built with the company to work with a legacy platform, right? So I think that there's an aspect of software. I mean, from a software developer's perspective, software is never finished. It's never completed. It's always changing, right? Like you can't, apart from like a function that has a strict input and output that has no effect on anything else outside of that box, that black box of the function, then there's no complete code, right? Because the amount of emergent behavior and how things can interact, it becomes like a chess game, right? Like it becomes infinite, right? So you get this kind of problem of, yeah, it's always evolving, and you need to treat it as such. And businesses don't do that, right? So businesses won't just go, oh, we're going to go and spend another £1 million rewriting that system in a modern technology to keep us up to date. No, they'd rather not outlay that money until it breaks, until it's or until the business actually suffers more financial loss from that system going down, and then having to rebuild it. So it's that kind of like there's a very much a corporate mindset of trying to get companies in a way of always internally rewriting and maintaining their own code and everything else. Like it's tough.
And
but this is what leads us to.
Yeah, all the large code bases I've seen are, you know, one bug away from breaking down. All of them. I mean, they're all fragile. They're all right there on the edge. And
I love that. I love that. It's like they have those comments like, "Don't modify this code. Dragon's Light here."
Yes, exactly. I mean, one of my favorite things to do each day is the new daily WTF. Reading through that about how a code base that's been maintained for a huge time gets handed off to a new person, and they end up screwing it up really crazy, or they make patches on patches that just go sideways. I really highly recommend that site, thedailywtf.com. It's got every day something interesting, and it should be required reading, I think, for all devs, because it shows you what not to do. Definitely what not to do. You know, the enum that's called Boolean that has true, false, and file not found. That was brilliant. What a great enum.
It's also the what I saw was it generate random number? I know this is from XKCD, but I love it. Generate random number and it returns 42, and it's like
Yes.
return 7 or something. It's like, and the comment is, I calculate this number from a random roll of the dice.
Exactly.
The
Okay, a couple.
expectation of I call the function and I get a random number. It was
Yep.
random when it was chosen,
Right.
right? Which
So
is
it's
legitimate,
random.
but
It's
it's
any
the
other number.
misunderstanding of the expectation
Right.
of the function is always going to give you a different number each time you call it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That
Which
should be
is
in the
kind of
spec.
obviously what most people think a random number does. I think it's that kind of the joke is it's that connotation of if thing isn't documented very if code isn't documented very well, you want to rewrite things, you want to keep things working, but equally there's a quite a big chance that there's side effects that are not obvious in the code because of the complexity we just spoke about how things interact, and they get missed, right? So I mean, if you have to do any, let me just give you a tip. Anyone's doing this, have to do any sort of rewriting like that, write a test suite first, right?
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't have
Oh, yeah.
tests. Like you it's almost like a surgical thing, right? You cut out this piece of code, right, out of like the code base. You make some interfaces for whatever it is, and then you can then write tests to the interface. You can monitor the inputs and outputs of what happens, and then you write tests that confirm those inputs and outputs. Then you can rewrite all the code inside of that black box that you've now cut out. And as long as those tests output the same thing, then the expectation is the same result, right? So, yeah. Anyway,
I'm actually quite pleased with the amount of tests that Gemini puts into my code now. My code used to be almost no tests, and now it just gets tons of tests. It's really good. It comes up with some really good stuff sometimes.
I mean, it's nice to say that, but also the tests actually have to test something can actually be worth running. Like I've seen many even normal people come up with tests that are just like shocking. So
well, it's stupid ones like add 1 + 1 and make sure it's 2, and go, oh, well, test passed. Well, that's one positive test, right? You got to stop doing that sort of stuff. The queue is getting quite short, so if you want to get your question in, we'll be taking your question just in a few minutes. But we've got Tech Marco has a couple of questions here. Flutter Dart is super user friendly and with AI boosting productivity. How important are data structures and algorithms for Flutter devs? I never understood why they broke that out as a separate category. To me, data structures and algorithms is just programming. You know,
I think
why is it?
no, I'm going to cover that in a different way there, Randall. So I think you'll get this. Most programming, so okay. When you're coding like Assembler or C++ or C, you didn't really have the structures in the language, like the standard library of the language, to give you those algorithms and data structures. So you need to understand them and maybe recreate them. We started getting libraries like Boost and a few other ones, which were basically data structure and algorithm libraries to solve those common problems that you'd always get in writing that code. Then languages come along like Go and Dart, which have really good standard libraries. They include a lot of this kind of stuff. So as a developer, and as you go up that stack, what you end up doing is there's a lot of developers now which are just, I kind of call them glue developers, and I kind of do this as well, which is just like what I'm actually doing is taking the output of this over here and gluing it to that over there, and kind of just like essentially joining things together. There's no actual processing, there's no actual code per se, there's no actual logic for the most part. And I think that there's a failure then of a lot of developers to not understand these principles. And when things get complicated and you then require these principles of choosing the right algorithm or choosing the right data structure to represent or perform some sort of process or behavior, you then don't know it, right? And you're like, why is my software running so slow? What's going wrong? Like having something that like doing a where that scans the entire bloody data list of 10,000 items instead of having a proper index or having some sort of lookup mechanism, right?
Yeah.
Or using a hash table and blah blah blah. So I think that there's like kind of understanding what to choose, so I don't think it's ever going to go away, but you need to make sure you understand that. It's not needed in most day-to-day development.
Yeah,
I
mean, like
AI, I don't think from the AI front, sorry, Brandon, but from the AI front, I don't think it makes any difference whatsoever, right? Like AI is going to show you what to do, but you still need to make sure and validate it's correct, right? So,
and AI might not always choose the right structure either, and so you need to be smart enough to know that if you've got a 10,000 elements, you're trying to find an element in that you want to map, you don't want to list, but you need to decide that and override the AI if it decides, oh, I'll have a list for this. This is great. I have a list of items. So because you have to remember also AI is the average of everything it's been trained on. So the average programmer gets it right most of the times, and therefore AI is getting it right most of the time. But you still got to know those times when it isn't, and that's why it's always important to have that kind of that strategy. But and
it's kind of interesting, right? Because when you start talking about things like code that's very unique that hasn't been done before, the AI can't help you, right? Because it doesn't know, it's never seen it before to give you the suggestion.
Right. It takes a lot more. Yeah.
There's a lot more
definitely.
nuance.
I have to drive a lot more when it's something I would think is innovative or a special way that I wanted to do something. And his follow up here is DSAs are apparently considered a whole stage in the interview process nowadays. Yeah, I know. That just doesn't make sense to me. It's just programming. That's what programming is. It's not just. It's not. No, it's not a separate category.
Well, yeah, but so data structures and algorithms are apparently but of course, because that is what programming is. So they're trying to interview for a job about programming, and they want to know you can program,
right?
And not just rely on these AI tools, right? Because for the things we just said, when you do get a problem, you need to understand the right choices to be made, right? And this is the thing, right? Like you need to, and I mean, AI can do wonders. Don't get me wrong, but it's still not there yet. Like it's still not like you try and there's a lot of things it can do, but it cannot make intuition, right? It doesn't have intuition. It can't make intuitive leaps.
Right.
How you want to structure things or perceive the direction you're trying to put things in, right? Like that's one of the reasons why the whole PRD thing that Randall was doing was very important. It understood the context of what Randall was trying to do, therefore it could direct it better, right?
Context, all about context. Definitely have that. All right, and Tech Marco asks the follow-up to that, I guess, in some ways. It feels overwhelming in this new era to keep up with everything without vibe coding. Advice on how to prioritize the next thing to upskill, deploy, testing, backend, etc. All of that. Just keep learning, keep observing. You know, that's where my skills have been accumulated over the years.
I mean,
curious.
I think have some good side projects, right?
Yeah.
I think I've said this before. Like learning is something that it doesn't just magically come to you, right? Like you don't like you talk about like what's the next thing to upskill in. That's the problem you have, right? Like it's understanding what you want to do next, and you don't know what to do next until you have a target. So work out what you want to deliver. So maybe just you want to copy someone else's thing, right? That's a valid thing to do. How do they do that? I want to do that, right? I want a service online that you can sign up to, and you can do some AI stuff on a website. Work out how you deliver that thing, plan by plan. Okay, I need to understand deployment. I need to understand running AI in the cloud. How do I interact with that? Do I have to do an API? Blah, 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 blah. And then, then you're upskilling. Right now, once you do that, you can go to any business and be like, oh, I can set you up an AI online service. Bosh, you know how to do it, right? And it may not. And then here's the thing: is they go, well, it may not be an AI online service. They go, oh, we want to set up like a knowledge-based website for our internal infrastructure or whatever. Okay, well, we can use Flutter for that. We can do this, we can do that, because now you've got that practice that you had. So again, it's all about practice, 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 and give yourself a target of something to deliver. And that can just be you wanting to try out a widget. You want to try out a new state management solution. Be you trying to like work out some idea of interaction with some code, all sorts.
The other thing is to go on to social medias like the Discords and stuff and answer questions for a while.
Yeah.
And you will upskill, absolutely, because you're bound to, within the first 15, 30 minutes of hanging out on a general channel on the Flutter community Discord, for example, you're bound to hit a question that you don't know the answer to.
I
I still
remember,
run into
yeah.
like that.
On that point, I remember the very early days when we were on Gitter with the community, and it was like no one knew how to do anything in Flutter because it was alpha, like it was all brand new to everyone. But what I would be doing is I'd be taking my experience from Android and going, okay, if I was in Android, I'd be doing like this. How do I do it in Flutter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then learning that and helping everyone else out that didn't maybe have my experience in Android get to their target quicker or to get the journey quicker. And then I'm learning at the same time, right?
The other thing is that places like the Discord, there are always experts hanging out as well. I mean, I'm there as often as I can lay eyeballs on it without interfering with the rest of my day. And even if you, as a maybe a not quite advanced developer, if you try to answer a question for somebody else and you get it wrong, you'll get corrected right away. We will ignore a question, but we'll never ignore a bad answer. we correct those right away. We are pedants about stuff like that. I speak for all my fellow experts that know we're out there and we're doing this all the time. So you have a fail-safe mechanism there that is really rare in any other sort of learning endeavor. So it's kind of fun to be able to be on a social media and ask questions and answer questions, and you'll just get better. And you also understand what's important to people. What do people need to know about? And it's going to be the kinds of things you're going to have to learn to be useful in your upcoming clients and businesses and employers. So, yeah, it's definitely handy that way. I think that was our last question. It's currently in the queue. Yeah, so it's time for live coding. Good, it's top of the hour. It's probably time for live coding.
Yeah. What was the? Yes, I have heard of Leak Code, and there's Project Euler as well, and things like that, and lots of places online where you can like try. They give you a problem, and you need to solve it, and they give you information about how to directly solve it. And yeah, it's a good learning experience.
Like this. So ask a question with one profile, answer it wrong with another, and get tons of expert answers.
Gaming the system. I like it.
I think you could do that in your question. You can say, I'm working out how to do this. I'm pretty sure it's with this, right? But of course,
I think there's a big thing around like I'd say for myself, from a lot of what I remember in doing a lot of this stuff. I haven't been able to do it recently, and that is you need to have tried something first.
Yeah.
If you come along with the hands out going, make this for me, do this for me, no one's going to answer you, right? But if you come along saying, I'm trying to do this, I have done X, Y, and Z, and I still can't figure it out, then people are going to point you in the right direction, right? So you need to have tried it yourself. Then would that be a fair thing to say?
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so we'll stop taking questions here. So let's go ahead and do some live coding, I guess.
So, what we live coding? What did we get to last time?
Can we verify that we did pagination? I'm really sure
I did pagination. Yeah, we did that last week. So
you're talking about a state management system. You wanted to code a state management system from scratch?
No, not from scratch. It's more about like I wanted to try one out, but I'm just trying to think. I've got a list here of old things that people wanted. I mean,
okay.
Pop your quick. Anyone want to see anything? Give us some clues. We can rustle something up. I'm sure.
Sure.
I'm not doing river pod. Sorry, no, I'm not. First of all, not. I've got no interest in doing that right now. Sorry.
Yep. No, definitely not. No.
There's tons of information videos out there in River Pod. Don't need another one.
How about make the spin the wheel thing? possibly show how the animation would work. That could be fun.
Could fiddle around with that, yeah.
Especially getting the decay towards the end. That would be cool. Working out the math for that. Could be a challenge. I can tell you're not excited by that. I'm trying to think of some other ideas. You're looking at your list, I presume.
Yeah. Well, the one the I wanted to try Signal. So, oh, sorry, clicking on things I shouldn't be clicking on. So Ronnie Davis, that's one of the. So he was a developer in the community, and then applied to Google and got a job at Google based on his Flutter work. He became a GD and then worked for Google. And so I know that there's a thing called signals in React, and I know there's several packages on. So I'm trying to dig them out here. Bear with. I've lost one. Bear with me. All right, let's have a look at some of these things. So let's have a discussion, and then I think we'll do some state management. Everyone likes state management, right?
Yeah.
Do
Everybody's
custom
favorite.
scroll. Like, I love your suggestions, but you need to be more descriptive. What do you mean do custom scroll? There's plenty of examples we've done on custom scroll every week.
Yes. Yes.
So you need to
One of our favorite
think
topics.
about asking.
Yep.
Okay, so where was I?
You're there.
So there's this one, which I thought was kind of interesting. So Maruti has been doing lots of Flutter packages for a while. He picked up the ShadCM one and a few others, and he did this a simple state management library inspired by Solid.js, and this has the same very similar concepts to React's one, right? Which is this notion of having a signal and effect of that signal, and you have computed signals, which is basically the combination of signal and effect together, right? So let me go. We're going to go through the basics of this first, so we're all on the same page, and we're going to look at some different solutions around this, and then we're going to try and implement something with it, right? So let's step by step, right? So we're not necessarily going to use this package, but I feel it's worth reviewing some of the alternative packages around, and then we can work out how they're similar and how they're different, right? So I know there's a what's it called? You know what? Let's look it up. This is the one, isn't it? This is the package. So there was a package that came around, state management with style in every framework. This is it. React.js, which was like a thing on top of React, I guess. And this is there you go. Signals is a performance state management library with two primary goals: make it easy possible to write business logic for small to complex apps, no matter how complex your logic is. Your updates should stay fast without you need to think about it. Systems automatically optimize state updates behind the scenes, trigger fewest necessary updates, and lazy by default, automatically skip signals that no one's listening to. Integrations and frameworks, native built-in, blah blah blah. So this is the original sort of state management solution that someone came up with, and this is the core API. So signal, you can peek into a signal, you can look at computed effect, batch, untracked. These are the core APIs. There's a bunch of stuff on top you can build with that. I wonder if we can there's a bit of documentation here. So this is JavaScript, right? So we're just going to look at this and understand where we're coming from, and then we can see where we're going to go to. So in this case, you can create a signal with a value, right? Count in this case, you can look at that value and you can modify that value. then you can add in watch and unwatch callbacks, so that when that value, I guess, as soon as the first subscriber, so something subscribes to the signal, we can do something. When someone unsubscribes, we can do something. Peak lets us look at the signal, its value without having an effect. So in this case, here's an example of this. This is big enough, by the way. Bigger. So in this case, you create a signal called counter and effect count. And here's effect. So this function essentially is registered to run because effect counter is being changed, right? So counter value is being read. So because sure, there you go. Reactors are not related to reactors. 3 kind of alternative to great. Same difference. Some JavaScript library.
Okay.
Anyway, so the idea here being that, when counter's read, because it's being read in this effect function, whenever counter's changed, it will rerun this function for us. That's what the effect is doing. It's registering this function for us, so that some logic is performed. In this case, it increments an effect count, right? But the fact that we're changing this in here means that with peak, it's not going to register that this function reruns to stop like an infinite loop. What else do we have here? Computed, similar thing. See here, signal. We have names, Jane, surname Doe. We have a computed signal of Jane plus the space plus the surname. So that's the full name. Now that, if we try and get full name value, it's going to be Jane Doe in this case. And if you change the first name to John and print out the full name, you're going to get John Doe, because it automatically ran the computed function and adjusted the value for us. So again, an effect is basically a similar thing, but instead of having a result, it's more like you're subscribed to the details. So effect here means that every time full name changes, it will print it out to the console. So right now, just changing the value to John will print the full name of John Doe to the console because it's been registered. And you can combine all this a bit, the same in different ways. But here's an example here of disposal. So an effect gives you a dispose function. You can run that to unregister the contents of the effect from those things. Anyway, this is the kind of basic concept. There's a batch which can make a change in batches. Untracked, which guess what, lets you make changes to signals inside this untracked function and not register for them in the effect. So anyway, okay, so this is I'm not going to go into it, but there's conceptually that's like the rawest of ways. Oh look, interesting. Here's why I made it faster. Blah 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 in their thing, right? Okay, cool, fine. So this is signal in SolidArt. I guess SolidArt. I guess that's how you pronounce it. It's the same thing. Signal. You can read a value. You can modify that value. You can also update the value like this manually, like that. You can register effects. And you get dispose function back. You do computed. The same example. Look, John Doe computed. Full name. Set it. Get the full name back. And then there's a thing called a resource, which are basically specifically designed to handle async loading, to wrap async values and to deal with that. So, one resource. So this is one mechanism. SolidArt. So the guy who did this did Flutter SolidArt as well, which I don't know if this. I think maybe this gives you some widgety things. There you go. So you got a signal. You get a signal builder. And you can do an on for I guess one of those asyncs are wrong, ready, on error, on loading. That's kind of nice. And then, the dependent injection for flood SolidArt is done for Disco, which is another package by the same author, which we'll look at now. I thought Disco is quite interesting the way it's written up. I'm not sure if I want to use it or not, but this is kind of interesting, right? So Disco is a library introducing a new concept of providers that operate differently from those already presented in the Flutter ecosystem. It's developed to overcome the challenging limitations in the context of dependency injection. It's interesting, right? Interesting start. The package supports many features like providers that accept arguments, but to keep things simple, here's a basic example to get you started, right? So let's think Riverpod for a second. You create a global model provider, and then when it's accessed, you get the model created from the context, right? Bosh. So the state is never stored globally directly in the provider instance. See this provider solely as type safe identifier, right? Which is how Riverpod works, right? And then you insert provider scope in the desired point of the widget tree, which again, same way Riverpod works, right? Boom. And you provide, but in this case, you provide upfront the providers to it, right? I'm not sure. You don't have to do that in Riverpod, right?
This is closer to how provider works, I think.
Well, you still have to have a scope in Riverpod, right? A scope widget that you put at the top in your widget tree.
Yeah.
But you don't have to register with that. You just have to access it, right? I think, if I remember rightly.
Right. Yeah. The difference, Riverpod uses the identity of the provider as a key into a map inside the provider container.
Yeah.
And that's the mechanism.
So that's interesting. And then any point in your widget tree, you can do model provider of context, because this is the global. We get like a nice registration here, and then you can get that data from the scope. So there's a nice little injection system. Things work quite reasonable. And as it says here, what makes this library unique? Disco draws from inspiration from Provider and Riverpod, the two most widely used DI libraries in Flutter, both built around the concept of providers whilst aiming to overcome their respective limitations. These libraries have significantly shaped how developers manage state and dependencies. Provider supports simple widget tree aligned scope model, which does not allow multiple providers of the same type, right? So could you look up based on the type? Where Riverpod, by contrast, supports multiple providers of the same type, but relies on globally structured architecture that breaks away from the widget tree, right? So this is a really nice. I really like this explanation of the two libraries. It really does explain it really well.
Well written.
So Disco builds on the strength of both whilst taking a different path. It is, to our knowledge, the first and only solution that supports multiple providers of the same type without wrapper types or string keys, using a model that remains fully local and naturally integrated into the Flutter widget tree whilst reducing the downsides of both to a minimum. So I kind of like the way that is taking like the best of both worlds there. He's got a comparison and some other things you can like look at. There's your provider scope for Riverpod and things, right? But anyway, there's obviously pros and cons to both, right? Not gonna lie, right? So this is kind of interesting, right? So bomb. Okay, let's go back. So okay, I'm like, that's kind of interesting. I haven't like looked more into this API, so we'll put it to one side for a second. Yeah, see, I see it, but equally, it's not as nice as another one that I've seen, and that's why I like the concept of Disco and what he's saying there, but equally, I don't want to use Flutter Solid Art. I'd rather have Disco without that. So use the Disco injection, but without signals. As far as I'm aware, you can do that, right? So Disco, it's another package. Let's do this Disco. Disco is just a dependency injection solution. So we should be able to use this if we want to, right? So that's kind of interesting. Let's put it to one side. Okay. So I think we're going to say that I'm not interested in the signal stuff here, but maybe in Disco. Now, this came up. Have you heard of this? LightRef.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this came up in another search around. So LightRef was it State Beacon's been around a while, which is another sort of reactive Flutter kind of like name.watch. Basically another you write Beacon writable, and then you can like watch it for changes and blah blah blah. Another state management thing, right? However, where was it? LightRef. LightRef is again another dependency injection for the UI. So again, you do your scope widget at the top, and then you create your, instead of providers, they're called refs here. So ref.scoped. So this is going to be scoped to a context. And then you do the same thing as Disco, settings ref.of context, right? So that's kind of interesting. So very similar concept. But in here, again, you can do your scope and you can do an override but you don't have to. Haven't looked at this, but as far as I can understand from looking at it, you don't have to pre-register your providers directly in the scope. It detects it automatically. So this one's kind of, and then you've also got scoped family, which is very much like the family scoping on RiverPod as well. So there's some interesting notions here. And again, they've got handling of disposal as well, which I saw in here somewhere, which is pretty cool. So anyway, so this is cool. Like maybe we'll come back to this. This is one that I've got on my list. And now we're going to get to the pièce de la résistance, as they say.
Here we go. Balky says, Balky in the chat says, somebody state management. I never heard of this one.
Well, good.
There are a lot of state management systems. I mean, it's.
So, I mean, I'm not joking. So our friend, there was we actually had for a while we had a tweet thing going where we had a table of all the different state management solutions and like all the different comparisons. And I think it was who was doing it? I've forgotten his name. I can picture his face. I can't remember his name. Okay. It's terrible. I know Majid was also using it as well in some of his talks. Anyway, but there was a massive chart that was being made, and it got too big. It literally got to like, I think it was like 70 line table, like image, and it was just like it's just unmaintainable, right? There's like tons. I think they're all trying to solve problems a slightly different way, a common way. It's like one of the things, right? When you work on a project and you want to do things a certain way for your project, and then what happens is the state management library or whatever gets in your way. It's not as easy as it should be to integrate with or something, and therefore it's wrong for your use case, right? Now I wish it did it this way. Now you invent another state management solution, right? So I think there's a problem with state management libraries, which is they need to be layered. So you have like a fundamental basic, like if you're doing them properly, you have like a core, and you have another layer on top, which is the implementation of that core, and another implementation of that, which enhances it further. And that way, if you don't like the top layer abstraction, you can build on top of the layer below that. And if you don't like that one, you can build on top of the raw layer below that even, right? So this is about how you build frameworks and libraries. And it's key that those libraries give you that access. Sadly, not all of them are built this way. This is just good software development, right? Anyway.
And Remy has been quoted frequently as, well, not frequently, but at least occasionally says that the simplest parts of state management are easy to get right. It's the what to do in the edge cases and the corner cases and the how do you handle exceptions in a reasonable way through the system and so on, that it gets tricky. And you can tell that Remy's been working on RiverPod for quite a long while now. And in fact, with the RiverPod 3 right around the corner, it's like he's taken the third pivot now of which direction should be headed, where RiverPod away from provider was the first one, and then RiverPod 2 did a bunch of things differently, and then RiverPod 3 is doing a few more things that are even different. So
let's carry on with this, right? And then I want to get onto RiverPod again. Right. So signals. So signals is again another implementation of the same signals package, but this one by Rody Davis. And as it says here, fine-grained reactivity based on preact signals. That's the one we looked at for initially, the JavaScript one, which will automatically track the dependencies and free them when they're no longer needed. Lazy evaluation. So signals are evaluated lazily and will only compute their values when they're read. If a signal is not read, it is not computed, which is nice. So those computed values, until you try and read the full name, that then runs the compute of the full name and sees if it's. I'm assuming it does caching of the resulting value and stuff like that, so like a select. Flexible API. Every app is different. Signals can be composed in multiple different ways. The rules. There are a few rules to follow, but the API there are a few rules to follow, but the API surface is small. Surgical rendering. Widgets can be rebuilt surgically, only marking the dirty parts of the widget that need to be updated if mounted. And then supports Dart.js HTML. Brilliant. So that supports Jasper and all these kind of things on the front end. Supports shelf server side as well. So you can do server side development. It supports CLI native on the front end side, VM, running in non-AOT modes, Flutter web, mobile, and desktop, and it can be basically used in any Dart project, right? So this is like tick, 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 right? Like I don't want to have to be working with a state management solution and then go, oh, it doesn't work on the platform that I'm trying to target with Flutter and Dart, and then be having to rewrite with a different state management solution, right? So that's one interesting point here. Okay. So there's some full documentation, which we're going to get to in a minute. I was looking through it earlier. We'll come back to that in a second. However, we're just going to go through the same examples and just see how you do it with this, right? So Signals Library exposes 4 functions, which are the building blocks to model any business logic you can think of. That's it, 4 functions. Nice and simple. This is why I like this, right? Well, one of the reasons why I like this. So signal initial value, boom, and this is a typed initial value. You obviously don't have to, this would be an integer in this case because of the 0, but you obviously can put type in here, whatever you want. A signal is a container for a value that can change over time. So there's very much like a value notifier and value listable and that kind of stuff, right? A signal can be value can be read and it can be subscribed to for updates. Again, same way those work, right? So this is a standard concept, so we all understand. Get your counter, you can read the value, you can write the value, right? Writing a signal is done by setting its value property. Changing a signal's value synchronously updates every computed and effect that dependent has on that signal, ensuring your app state is always consistent. Okay, so this is interesting, right? So conceptually, I didn't know this until reading this now. So what we're saying here is the lazily computed is that the value got changed, and therefore every compute and effect either is being run at that point when the value is set, or it's because it says synchronously updates every computed and effect. So changing the value here is actually running the link compute. So essentially running down the dependency tree.
And my immediate question is the update recognized as an identity change or as an equality change, or can you override it? I'm curious.
All right, well, we'll have a look at that. Signal peak is a rare instance where you have an effect that should write to another signal based on its previous value, but you don't want that write effect to be subscribed to that signal. You can read the signal's previous value via signal peak. And that's what we saw earlier, right? It's basically saying you want to read the value, but you don't want to subscribe to it because you have automatic subscription in effect, in the effect callbacks. Untracked is similar case, similar vein. In case you're receiving a callback and you can read some signals, but you don't want to subscribe to them, you can use untracked to prevent subscriptions from happening. And this can be a function, and you can do more than just like whatever you want, basically. And then computed. Data is often derived from other pieces of existing data. The computed function lets you combine those values into multiple signals of a new signal that can be reacted to, and even used by additional computeds. There's a apostrophe missing there. When the signal is accessed from within the computed callback change, the computed callback is re-executed, and a new return value becomes the computed signal's value. Okay, that's what we saw earlier. Any signal is accessed inside the computed callback function will automatically be subscribed to and tracked as the dependency of that computed signal. I think we kind of covered this. We don't need to go through this again. I suppose mutating a signal inside an effect will cause an infinite loop because the effect will be triggered again. To prevent this, you can use an untracked and read the signals without script. That's the rule that he was talking about, right? Now, I think I saw in his documentation is that he actually detects that and throws an exception. So you know that that's incorrect, basically. That's the rule that you have to follow, the way the system works. The batch function allows you to combine multiple signal writes into one signal update that is triggered at the end when the callback completes. Okay, so again, what we saw earlier was because they've done synchronously, right? So name.value would have all the computed and effects that depending on name would have got called. By doing the batch, what we're saying is delay those changes until this function finishes, and then at the end of this function being called, you're going to go and update all the dependencies all at one time. This stops you from having to have two passes. Maybe you have something further down, like a computer that depends on both these values. Well, here's an example computed here. So well, here's the example, right? Let's talk about this example. If you weren't to have the batch here, name.value change would cause full name, the computed function, to run and calculate a new string with the first name, new first name, space, the new and the original last name. And then it would also run this effect and print off that name on the screen. Well, that's it. And then when it gets to surname.value, it would have done the same thing all over again, but this time with a new surname, with the new first name, obviously, from the previous step. Now, what this batch is going to do is only trigger the effect once because it changed them both at the same time, and the computed once could change them both at the same time. All right. Cool. What else do we have here?
Driving batch.
Oh, rhyme batch. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Blah blah blah. Batch will be. Oh, okay, that's cool. Look, and batches can be nested in updates, and we will flash when the outermost batch call completes. That's kind of cool. So if you've got some nested sort of updates, it will batch them up nicely. That's cool.
All those nested batches.
So then what? So is this? This is like I was going to go into the Signals Flutter package here, but he's got an example here. So then they've got this to use this inside of a Flutter app. Like you can just take advantage of some of the extensions that he's made. So in this case, look, with signals mixing, you can pop on a widget on a state, and you can do create signal, create computed, or whatever. And what's going to happen here is when you increment that value, it's going to trigger the two computed functions to run. And then because they're being read inside this build function, what happens is this state is getting rebuilt. So that's kind of nice, right? Like it's like an automated system there, right? So this is what kind of got me interested.
This looks like it would handle about 50% of what I've used Riverpod for. So that's not bad. Yeah.
Well, I think I'm kind of interested to see what your opinion is on that front. So let's carry on. So the signal mixing is a mix that automatically displays all of the signals created within the state when the widget is removed from the widget tree. So you still have your globals, but equally this is like nicely putting like this whole signal notion into your widgets, right? Fine grain rebuilding. So if you want to rebuild it based on sort of sub widgets or whatever. So again, you can create your signal and then you can use a watch widget. So just like I know you have what consumer is it consume in Riverpod and provider, same difference, right? So you're accessing the variable inside here. And what's going to happen is when you increment this on this button press, well, it's this callback in watch that's registered to look at counter. Therefore, it's going to rebuild that widget. Nice and simple. It's kind of how I kind of like this because it's how simple it is. Look, there's 3 lines. It's kind of how you expect. It's honestly how I feel that just state management Flutter should just work out of the box. If I'm honest with you, like it's like you have value listable, you have value notified. I just feel like this is how it should just work. Right.
Yeah.
So let's have a look. And then you've also got watch builder, and so you can replace a builder pattern with that, and you get the same thing happening. It's like that. Cool. You can also do watch count like watch.context, which is the similar thing. You're essentially reaching this context to rebuild when that changes again. Same as we would do with provider or Riverpod or whatever, right? And then there's also some dev tools which show you the connections between all your signals, so you can see the graph and understand the state and what's going on. So that's pretty cool as well. Back up to the top here. So signals Flutter. Yeah. Okay. So that's just basically it's giving us the information we spoke about now. All right, we're getting there. So
for your question.
Yeah, I mean, let's have a look, right? I have no idea. Let's look at the testability, right?
Oh, let's open the box together.
It's like sorcery. No, I wouldn't say sorcery, but it's always, I mean, this is the whole point, right? The whole point of these things is to make your life easier. If you feel it's sorcery, you need to go. I know you're making a joke at this, but if you do feel like that code, you don't understand the code like it's like magic, That's a right big red flag that you need to go look and understand the code. You need to go read that SDK. You need to go read the frame. How does it do that magic? That's the question.
Right.
You should always be asking yourself when that happens, right? You need to be going,
Yeah.
well, how is this magic? Right? Learning from that exploration.
Yeah, like I'm instantly curious. What's in that mix-in that makes it enable watching the variables the way it's
Exactly. We're going to go look at that right now. We're going to experiment. We're going to learn. Okay, so cool. So we got these. These are the sort of breakdown of the packages. Great. And you just go and pop your latest. I feel like you would include signals Flutter. He's got signals here. Oh, Dart. Okay, yeah. Oh no, it just said add signals. I wonder if he's got like a dependency on. That seems weird to me. Oh, signals underscore Flutter.
So
I'm curious how he's doing his library then, because you can't import a Flutter library like Dart UI library into.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because his dependencies aren't going through that chain. Anyway, let's not go there right now. So I'm kind of curious about what else we've got going on here. So we talked about this. He's done. There's a bunch of videos as well and some other things that I haven't really looked about, but I mean, what updates? Further reading about signals. So there's always, and that's another thing. Angular uses signals. There's Vue.js. There's a bunch of stuff that's using this concept of signals. So I think it's interesting as well, because I think there's a transition here as well in terms of if you've used any of these other platforms, or you want to go use these other platforms after using Flutter, you've already got that knowledge to share as well, which is always a bonus. All right. So Randall,
Sure.
I need to step away for a second. How about, do you want to share the documentation on your side and maybe have a look through this for 5 seconds?
I can do that. Pull it up. And see signals, right? It's that. Find back here to you. So share. Where's the share button? This thing? Yes. Share tab. Where's the tab? Share screen. Make just a tab. Microsoft Edge tab. That'll work right there. Share. Okay. Can you? No, how do we get that into the stream?
There you go.
Okay.
If you make it.
Oh, and I just stopped sharing. I pressed the wrong button. See, that's why I don't ever share on this thing. That's why I'm not doing this stuff. Okay, wait, where's this? This, share screen, this tab, share. Okay. Yeah, now we can share that. All right.
If you make it wider, it will fill up the thing, and you might need to zoom in a bit.
Yeah, okay, I got to get to the right tab. See, I was switching tabs, and I pressed the stop sharing as a tab switcher. That didn't work. Like this, does that make it full the screen?
Yeah, that's it. And then zoom in, and then it should be nice and big for everyone.
Like that.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay.
I'm sure people will complain if it's not. Yes, if you click on if you scroll down, click on documentation there. Right in the middle. Oh, no.
Well, where did you
scroll to the top? Scroll to the top.
Yeah.
At the bottom of the bullet pointed list, you've got a documentation link.
Bottom of the right there. This one, full documentation. All right. Signals Dart.
Still and then click get started.
Okay.
And then you go back here. So if you go to core on the left.
We're
looking at signal. I was going to go down that list on the left, kind of like seeing what reinforce what we've got at the moment, make sure we're in the right picture. I'll be back in just a minute.
All right, already. So looks like we've got signal here, and we've got again the same as we're looking at in the JavaScript version. You just create a variable. Looks like it probably takes a type parameter, but we're not using it here. It's inferring the type, and it looks like peak is letting us get the current value, Yes, effect count.peak. I was going to not put it into an infinite loop. That's probably important. We've got dot value, which apparently acts as a subscription, so that it will subscribe and trigger the signal whenever the value changes. Yeah, right. Force update. If you want to force an update for a signal. Wow. Okay. This will trigger all the effects and mark all the computed as dirty. I imagine you'll need this when you want to replace the value with its identical same value and still make sure that there's events triggered for it. Emit is triggered for it. Looks like it's got auto dispose. That's interesting. So it'll dispose itself when there are no more listeners. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, this is starting to look interesting, actually. I mean, as a hardcore RiverPod guy, I could definitely see playing around with this a little bit. Auto-disposing signal does not require its dependencies to be auto-disposing. Oh, that's clever. When it disposes, it will freeze its value and stop tracking its dependencies. You can check if a signal is disposed by calling a method on that. And there's an onDispose callback, which is interesting because that's the reason that Remy switched from provider to RiverPod, is he couldn't get accurate onDisposes. So I'm wondering how this author has managed to work around that. Fascinating. Custom signals. Oh, look at these. Value listenable signal mix-in. Value notifier signal mix-in. Oh, wow. Yeah, this looks like fun. Now I'm going to want to play with this right after the show. This is definitely looks interesting. So in Flutter, if you want to create a signal that automatically disposes itself when the widget is removed from the widget tree and rebuilds that, you can use the create signal inside a stateful widget. So we have here a stateful widget with signals mixing, and that's the one I want to go look at, seeing how that's implemented. But apparently that lets us create this counter here inside the state of a stateful widget and have it be disposed properly when the widget goes away, which is nice. It looks like the reference here to $counter is going to access the current value of it and also register the dependency. And then here we do counter value plus plus, which also registers the dependency to cause a rebuild for that. No watch widget or extension is needed. Signal will automatically dispose itself. Nice when the widget is removed from the widget tree. And then testing. Yes, the question that was brought up a moment ago in the chat. Looks like here we can do a bunch of stuff. It exists in order. Oh, this is interesting. Or emits in order. So it's got it's just like testing a stream. To stream. I see. This is so we just test these like streams, and we can do all our normal stream testing with it. That makes sense then. So S to stream. So signal to stream. Emits an order as a matcher from the stream stuff. Yep, exactly. So and you can have an override with the original value. Oh, nice. So that provides the initial value. And then now it has values of -1, 1, 2, and 3. Love it. That looks good. Okay, so that's signal. Let's go on to computed. And that's about getting data derived from other data. So we're going to, this is the full name example again, just like in the JavaScript version of it. And then forcing a reevaluation, again, recompute. That's cool. I like the choices of method names. I think this is well thought out, and it's probably mostly borrowed from the JavaScript version of this, but it's still nice that people have to think through some of this stuff. Naming is hard. Definitely naming is hard. Okay, undispose callback. Good. Custom computed. So we can extend the computed class. Interesting. So computed, my computed extends computed with super zero. That would be used. Let's probably some answer for that. Not seen any need for that yet, but that's because I haven't read this very well. And in Flutter, you want to create a signal that automatically disposes itself. Again, we're using that signals mix-in that I think must be magic. And we're creating a couple of custom computeds here, or creating a couple of computeds and having a good time with that. And down here in testing, same sort of thing. So we have a signal, we have a derivative signal called computed, and then we can see the stream coming out of the computed one, and we see that it goes through the right sequence of emitted events. Cool. Is Simon back here? I can't see because I'm on the wrong screen. Nope, he's not back yet. He's waiting for me to stop talking. I can't tell which. Nope, he's still gone. All right. So I'll go ahead to the next one with my scratchy throat, affected by the stupid hay fever I've got right now. Effect. And this is where we just want to have something that is dependent on a signal, but it is not a signal itself. So it assigns a callback to a computed. Right? No, sorry. To that effect. Okay. Oh, it's registering full name without value. So it's subscribed to that, and then it runs this whenever that changes. Let's see here. Okay, let's see here. Just checking the chat, make sure I'm not missing any questions here. Nope. Okay. Let's see. Cleanup callback. Oh, okay, good. So you can get a dispose on that. Oh, nice. Destroy effect in the descriptions. All right. Undispose callback, preventing signal cycles. You can use untracked to be able to access a value without having a side effect. That's nice. And here's untracked actually coming up, which is just simply go ahead and get the value untracked using this function. So nice. Batch we covered a bit earlier, but basically it's putting a bunch of things together at the same time. So they'll be operated essentially as a single transaction, pushing everything through. And then we've got a bunch of updated news for Flutter. This is
I'm back.
Okay. Well, I've just to start the Flutter side of the thing. So if you want to take it from there.
Sure.
Okay.
Should I? Yeah, let's do that. Let's switch. Play the switcheroonie.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's stop my sharing here so I'm not tying up my screen. There we go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I got to look through the.
So you went through those top ones.
Yeah.
I had a bit of that last one. I can't get it.
Everything in core. So no.
Anyway, so signal provider is an inherited notifier widget that allows you to pass a signal around the widget tree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Interesting.
So okay, so you can add functionality. So you can extend. I like this as well. The idea that you're not just stuck with having to wrap a signal value. You can actually extend it as well. So that's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
You can add additional functionality. So here, a signal provider, whatever the signal is, you have a lazily create function, and then when you try and access that value, of context, and then you can have a builder with it in. So this is the thing I feel like this is nice. Don't get me wrong, but equally this doesn't feel as nice as the disco notion, right? Like I feel like there's some work that can be done there to maybe align that a bit better.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, okay, so you can use any one of them, right? So Flutter computed. So like this, like he's showing you here that a computed function, resolve a computed function, is a signal int, is also a Flutter computed int, is also a Flutter read-only signal, and is also value listenable.
Mm-hmm. So it's a value listenable. Oh.
Yeah. So I think let's see this up here on No, I don't think he showed it up here. So it's just showing it down here. So what he's saying here
Okay.
is it implements all these interfaces, right? Which basically means that you can take any signal from the signals package and integrate it with a bunch of the Flutter widgets as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I remember rightly, when I saw this before, you can actually do the reverse of that, which is take a value listenable or value notifier and convert them into signals.
Yeah.
So you can actually say, like, here's a scroll controller, have there be a dependency on our signal, have a dependency on the scroll controller. You can do that.
This is
Which I thought was kind of
nice.
interesting, stuff like that. So custom signal, yeah. So here you go. So you can actually say, okay, I want whatever your signal is, it's computed in, and it's a value signal mix in as well. So, or
I
you
might
can
have
send
to
it
turn in. I might have to turn in my RiverPod fan club card after if I play with this long enough.
So what I liked about this is it just feels simple, right? Like it does the same thing that I was looking for, but it's not got a really complex interface. And I feel like, again, it's that kind of layering system I was talking about earlier, which is you want a clear foundation and then you can build on top of that, right? And I feel like that's what I'm seeing here, right? Anyway, let's have a look.
Yeah.
Import, so import create signals that extend value notifier. So again, signal is signal, Flutter signal, Flutter signal, and it's because it's not computed value, which would be read only. You can set it. It's a value notifier.
Wow.
All right.
So since it's a value notifier, we now know that it's notifying based on equality rather than identity.
Well, we could just have that as an interface. I mean, we'll check, make sure it matches it, right? To create a custom signal that extends the value notified, you can do mix in or extend the Flutter signal directly. Yeah, same as the computed. So like this, right? Then we got value listenable. So as of signal 6.0, any computer can be created with a Flutter import implementing value listenable by default, as we just talked about. But this is what I like here. Look, you can also create a read-only signal from a value listenable. This is what I found interesting. Look, here's your value notifier. And you can say two signal on.
Wow.
Now you can now take that value listenable, value notifier from any other package or library or whatever, and use that within your state management solution directly. So I thought that was kind of interesting. They got the same thing with value notifier.
I know what I'm doing the rest of the day.
And there is two signal on that.
Playing with this.
Watch. It's basically the same thing, right? So what we were talking about earlier, and you got watch builder, and you have context watch. So yeah, so you can have like font size, whatever it is, and you can watch that font size, blah. So this is kind of interesting as well. Is recommended to use a watch widget or instead of the dot watch context, as it will automatically unsubscribe when the widget is disposed of. We're waiting where you would have to wait for the garbage collector in the watch context. And the reason for this is because this watch function creates a weak reference to do its work, which is fine. It's not a problem. But it's because there's no notion of having a provided scope for it to register against. Right. So I think that I feel like if there's one thing I would like to add to this library would be that scope notion, right? Of having like a single scope, let's say, widget, and then get the same value of what we saw in terms of inside of Disco or LightRef, where you're kind of getting that. So, but you can mix them together, right? There's nothing limiting you to saying, oh, I want to use Disco or LightRef as my dependency injection, and then using signals as my state management, right? Mix those two things together, or get it, or watch it, or whatever you want, right? So, okay. Rebuilds, blah blah blah. Cool. Selectors. With signals, instead of using a select, you instead create a new computed signal that is derived from the original, which makes sense, right? It's exactly how a select essentially works. So now what's going to happen is only going to this computer is only going to trigger a rebuild of this widget if value A changes of the original signal. In that example. Oh, and apparently you can do dot select from an original signal, which is just I guess this is just syntax trigger around a new compute on the original.
Clever. This is definitely clever. I like it.
And what I also liked is to see the dev tools as well, like the enhancement of dev tools, so you can actually see the value of all of your signals and the graph of your signal and how they're connected to each other, things like that. And then, of course, because of the use of mixins to deliver all this functionality, you can now use a bunch of these mixins to do to extend your own code and give you that sort of layer on top I was talking about. So signals computed via signals and async signals can be created with helper methods prefixed with a create. So create signal, create computed, create list signal, whatever it is, effects, create effect. What else? Sure. I saw this as well. So he's basically saying that, oh, you've got these mixins. So you can apply these mixins to any of your signals to give them additional functionality, right? So in this case, the signal actually gets an add listener and remove listener. So it acts as a value notifier, right? As we were saying before. Yeah. I'm not going to go through all of these, right? Oh, and then look, here you go, value listenable builder now. So you can take your counter signal and just chuck it in a value listenable and have it rebuild. So that's kind of cool. Change that. I saw this and I thought this is a kind of interesting one. It adds redo, undo and redo change stack functionality. So basically, yeah, can I undo if there's a previous value, right? Then you undo and the value can be set back to what it was. You won't be able to undo anymore, right? But you could redo to move back forward to 1, right? So there's and I'm guessing there's a reason for that this was required, but it's nice to see that this functionality of what a signal might have in its value management is like kind of built in as a mixin.
Yeah.
A sort of value listable. I think we value notifier. Same difference.
See, this is why we don't need DSA, because we just got all this already in the library.
Track signal mixin, signal that stores its initial and previous value. That's kind of cool. So if you want to see what its previous value was, you just add, have this kind of initial value, previous value deal. Well, then you can just add this mix into your signal. Iterable. So if you've got like a iterable that you want to extend, right? You can have this mixin, and then you can treat the mixin as an iterable, right? So you can just treat it as, has a length, has a value, and all that kind of stuff. So you would obviously its internal value you're passing through would be whatever iterable it is, but this wraps it. So that way, if something's added or removed from the iterable or its length changes or whatever it is, so it would be rebuilt. Same goes for obviously list is more specific type of iterable, as it were. So you can add that mixin. So add 4, remove 1, contains 2. All of that works on the signal as if it was just a list, but actually it also is state management. There's also an enhancement obviously on queue. Same difference, set. Basically implementing those interface of queue, set, list wherever you need them. And then on top of that, you've got stream, which we saw earlier at testing, right? So you can actually take a signal and say, oh, treat it as if it's a stream. So you can do dot listen on it and so on. There's also event sync, so that you can sync state. In this case, mixing works with that value of type async state T. Okay, so this is specifically for async state.
Yep, that's right.
So this is
stream up.
And then you've also got sync signal. So again, this is just about receiving. So if you've got, let's say you're reading, maybe you don't want to do this, but yeah, you're reading a file or you've got something that's an event stream or a data stream coming in, then you could then also use it for that. Sorry. Right, anyway.
It looks like you can basically take any normal data structure and make it observable with this.
Yeah, which I really like.
Yeah, it's starting to sound right. Starting to sound like the right level to put this stuff at.
Sorry. Right. So then I notice there's async over here as well. So async state commonly used with future and stream signals to represent the state of signal can be in. So again, I think this is the same as what you might see and think of as async snapshot, right? So
Right.
what we're talking about here is a wrapping around the asynchronous state of a future. So as you can see here, we've got an async signal, and you're going to
Ooh,
have the
it's
output of data
sealed.
loading on error. Sorry?
It's sealed too, so that way we can do exhaustive switching. Nice.
Ah, I didn't even see that. Yes, sealed union. Nice. So yeah, you can do that exhaustive. So you can do the when side of things with the new switch statements as well. So
Yeah.
future, something to do with signal, the asynchronous stuff. So boom. You're going to wait on future S, sure.
Yeah, I think I'm going to dive deep into this
Is
afternoon.
completed, has value, has error, is refreshing, is reloading, require value, all the usual stuff, stack, map. Oh, there you go, look, map. There you go. So you can actually map on an async signal and get data error or loading. So that this is the same sort of when structure you kind of see in a lot of other language. We don't need to do this in Dart Flutter because you can do it as a switch statement, right? But this is kind of interesting because I guess this is maybe more functional if you want to try to have your functions passed in and pass them as parameters. I don't know. Works both ways. Maybe map, in case it's null, I guess. We'll provide defaults and optional overrides. Okay. Interesting. Pattern matching. And there you go. Here's what I was saying, that Dart switch statements. You can do it without, right? So there you go. There's an example of doing it without it. Cool. And then you got future signal, which is what we just said, right? Which is here you give it a future, and then what you're going to get. Oh, okay. Look. Oh, that's cool. So you can take a future to a signal, right? So you can do it. If you've already got something that's producing futures already in your system, you can get a signal from it. Cool. Then you got value and peak, which gives you async state. So yes. Okay, so it's dot value because dot value would give you the async state value, and then the value inside that would be the actual value of the data, right? Yeah. So resets the future to its initial state to be recalled on the next evaluation. That's because we have a factory constructor, so it's a function that returns back a future, so it can be reevaluated. Nice. Refresh. Okay, reset, refresh. So refresh the value by setting loading to true, but maintain the current state, async data loading this. Okay, so basically what this is saying, let's say you've got like a porter refresh or something like that, where you want to get the state that it's loading, so you can show a spinner on the screen, but equally show the existing data on the screen alongside that, right? So that's nice. Reload is basically doing a complete reset and putting it back to its initial loading state without data. Yeah. That's the difference between refresh and reload. Dependencies. By default, callback will be called once, and the future will be cached unless the signal is read in the callback. Okay, so here you go. Oh, that's good. Let's check this out. This is actually really nice. I like this. I really like this. Actually.
I'm looking at it too. It looks like a good design.
So look at this. Look. So if you just as the effect works in the other places, if I access another signal in my asynchronous callback, it will magically register it, right? So it will again rerun and recompute. And as you can see here, I'm waiting for the initial value. You then change the value, and then you can await again for the result of that future because it's going to be reevaluated, right? You don't have to, but I'm saying you could, right? If there are signals that need to be tracked across asynchronous gaps, use the dependencies when creating future signal and reset every time. Okay, so again, state 0, change it. I'm just going to nod my head around because we're getting quite in the weeds now.
Yes.
And then stream, same thing with streams. Basically, it's just a wrapper around what stream does into a signal, and you can access it nicely. And you have all those lovely same functionality on top of streams. Computed. Okay. Computed async. All signals are all signals are synchronous, but data can be computed asynchronously. Streams in future are the most common async signals, but sometimes you need to compute a value asynchronously and react to changes on input signals. Async computed is a syntax sugar around a future signal. Yeah, okay. So computed async from it's basically to get the same functionality from Angular if you're coming in from Angular. So there you go. So computed async is just a lovely function which basically just does exactly what future signal does, which is you give it a function and it returns back a asynchronous future.
Mm-hmm.
Computed from takes a list of signals and a callback function to compute the value of the signal every time one of those signals changes. Same thing, right? So you can have a bunch of dependencies here, like movie ID, and then it will refetch it once that changes. And then connect comes from Angular and RxJS. I think that, yeah, so connect is more about like the opposite direction. So rather than registering, you can upfront connect things, right? Yeah. So here, take a signal, you create a connector for that signal, and then you can say, okay, if any one of these streams changes, then these values get changed into the connector into the signal, right? So you can do add streams to the connector, yeah. So stream, if this stream emits value 1, then that's going to be set on the connector, and that's going to be set on the signal. So that signal is going to emit 1. So this allows you to do kind of feed things into the signals easier, and same for managing the dispose. Right, I'm not going to go, like, we've just gone through this documentation. We spent a long time with this, but this is the type of thing you need to do, right? You need to understand what you're doing, how you might use it. There's certainly some more complicated behaviors you can have here, like observable patterns and all sorts. Yeah, oh look, there you go. There's another example there. Look, so this is like, I like this. He's in his guides, and you can't see it. It's behind our heads in the bottom left hand. Actually, well, let me do this. Down here on the bottom left, they've got dependency injection as a sample, and then it's saying, oh, with provider, here you go. Here's how you use it with provider. You create your signal with the create function, and in dispose, you can dispose that instance, and then you can just read your signal, and even watch your signal. You know. Okay, so that's cool. And then there's one for get it. Oh, look, get it Riverpod. Oh, yeah. Using signals with Riverpod. Data binding reactive canvas. So there you go. Provide a scope. You have your at Riverpod signal counter. Okay, sure. And then counter provider. Bosh. So there's some interesting things there. You can use inherited widgets, of course. All right. All right. So what do we want to build with this is the question.
It's a little late to be starting building a project, I think.
We reached our limit, have we?
Getting close. Well, I tell you what, though, between now and next week, I can go and read up on signals and help you with programming with it then.
Yeah. Maybe I'll put together a sample for next week.
Yeah.
I mean, what do people, are people interested in this at the moment? Have we getting some interesting feedback from anyone?
No questions except Free. Free just made a comment that he liked the test as a stream. That was cool. Well, that's when I was talking. So, yep.
I think we spent a lot of time going through the documentation, but I think it was worth it. I think there's some good explanations. So long Riverpod. Well, I mean, like
yeah, I may switch. I posted the chat that I think I'm going to use Gemini CLI to convert some of my Riverpod code into
maybe if you do that, and then next week we could then discuss the differences. Maybe that's also nice positive.
I'll be happy to do that research. That'll be fun.
I definitely want to. I've got a little side project I've been playing around with. I wouldn't mind like using this as its state management solution, so that gives it an actual workable thing. Maybe we could bring demo that on next week's show as well.
Yeah, because I used to tell people, you know, if you need something slightly fancier than set state, value notifier with value notifier builder used to be my go-to for that, because it was just easy to drop in. It can be globals, and you don't have to think too much about it. You can scope it locally. It was all pretty simple to do, and this looks like that. Simplicity, everything horizontal from that.
It feels like it's just done enough on top to really kind of take it to where it needs to be.
We still didn't answer whether it was equality or identity, though. But yet,
should we have a look?
I don't know how we would look for that.
Well, what I'll do here. Hang on. Let's just have a quick scooch.
I'm guessing it probably defaults to one or the other, and there is probably something you can do in a subclass that overrides the default matching. At least that's the way Riverpod does it. Yeah, good question, Heidi. How to convert from Riverpod to this? That would be interesting.
Ask some AI.
Yes, I will be. I will be asking AI to do that. I'm not going to be an expert in this overnight, so I will
actually,
leverage my.
Now, what I. What's his date? 20th. I'm tempted to just say what this pagination example and try and run it with.
Oh, switch over to a Signal already.
Yeah, maybe that's a quick thing we could do because the code's there. I've got a little bit of time. Do we want to go for another 20 minutes?
I'm fine with that. Yeah, I'm looking at my bed right over here though, and I'm thinking I'm going to take a nap. So as soon as we're done with this, I'm napping again.
Let's see if this works.
A little short on sleep. Yep. Let's see what Fitbit says I got for sleep last night. That's always a curious number.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah. That's what it feels like. 5 hours, 6 minutes. No wonder I'm dragging a bit. All right.
Yeah. Oh. Right, let's try that again. Sorry, everyone. Try that again. Wait.
If you have any new questions, if you have questions that aren't related to this code update right now, please come back in 166 hours and give you those questions again. But we're done taking questions today, unless it's about this.
All right. Interesting. Okay, so we've got this. I mean, I had this notion of an API, right? And then we create an instance of that API. And then I'm just using like the widget tree itself to like fetch that. What else do we have in here? And then obviously when we scroll, we've got this fetch items. Where is it? In here, we're just going off and fetching more items. It's about using. I mean, about using everything to do with the way that this works in the right place. I mean, right now, the state of this widget is very much a UI state, and I'll just probably just leave it here. The fetch next. I'm just trying to think, like, do we want to like try and wrap this into that async state piece and like deal with it that way? I feel like that's probably too much. Interesting. So the result of items, how has this been evaluated? If items length is less than widget page length, then before, otherwise add them. Because we're paginating. All right, so that's probably, I don't know if this is the right target for this right now. Let's just have a look at this. Let's not go there. Let's just have a look at signals here. Yep. So, all right, so where was I going with this? We were saying about.
I wanted to know whether it uses identity or equality for triggering, for emitting.
I mean,
if it can be a value listable, it would have to be equatable or equality, not identity, because value listables equality.
Yeah, I'm just like looking at like signal, lazy signal, set, skip a quality check and update the value. So you can just force it as well. That's kind of nice. And there's the quality check function. And guess what? You can override it and do whatever you want.
Ah, oh, I
Problem
see. So when
solved.
you create, no, you say quality check colon and a lambda.
Well, no, this is a function on Signal, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
right.
because a public function on Signal, you can if you inherit this, you can just then override this function to do whatever you want. But by
Oh,
default,
right.
it's an identity match. That's what it's saying here, right?
Yeah, perfect,
So
perfect.
a
That's the most efficient way to do it too. So it's nice.
well, sorry, so it's running the equals operator, which is
Yeah,
initially
cool.
identity. But then if you override that, you can do your own equality, right?
Right.
But
Cool.
that's kind of interesting. So internal
Hmm.
set value. Interesting.
Mhm.
I don't want to kind of go through the internals of this, but to be honest, it's not all that important right now. But as you said, yeah, if it's a value, it implements, doesn't it implements value notifier? So actually down here, value notifier signal mixing. So this is the piece that basically adds those functions in from value notifier, and then just calls them into whatever we've got inside. So yeah, listeners, with absent, subscribe, nice, right? So that just works that out, and then remove listener. And then what goes into the listener set is a function, which is the dispose function. So that cleanup can call the dispose function. Nice and simple. I like
Yeah.
that. Notify listeners. Yeah. Set the value to the current value and force it to true. Bomb does the same thing. So yeah, this is like
Nice.
nice and simple
Yeah, I'm
as well, right? Which is what I like.
definitely going to be playing with this. Definitely. This may be my replacement for RuberPod in the future. We'll see.
I swear you just sounded like, what was his name? Rain Man. Definitely.
Yeah, I occasionally sound like Rain Man. Rarely, though, unfortunately. What?
Ooh.
What?
I didn't see this in the documentation. Ticker signal.
Oh.
Two animated controller. Curved animated. No way.
Hmm.
Oh. See? It's just, what else have we got in here? I'm kind of curious. So we're in the signals Flutter here. So core, extensions to signal. So we can watch, which does a watch signal, unwatch signal. Sure. Oh, look at that. There you go. Look. So you can also unwatch a context. So that will get rid of all the subscription updates for the watchers in there. So if you wanted to, you could in your dispose method call that, and that would unwatch anything from it, right? Okay, cool. I think we saw this earlier. These were the two signal unlistenable. Yeah, and notifier, same thing. We talked about watch, there being the watch widget. So there's our watch widget, which is Reps Watch Builder, which itself creates a computed value which runs the builder function. Well, that's interesting. Oh, that's cool. Okay, that's interesting. So this is quite a nice binder. This is. So what he's doing here, it's bound for hot reload as well, so you can recompute on that. It's bound if it did change dependencies, so it might need to be rebuilt. We did update the widget, unbind and rebind the signal, and then but this is kind of interesting. Do you see what he's done here? So the result, what he's actually done here is created a computed signal inside the watcher that returns the widget. I like that. That's kind of clever, right? So this is what this create computed is doing. It's running the builder function. That's clever. All right. What else? Let's go back here. Hang on. Back. So we said we have watch element watcher. Helper to track signals and effects with the life cycle of an element. That's okay. So if you're doing the element stuff we were doing before, you could even do it inside there. That's nice. Extension, sure. So this is the watch signal and unwatch signal, which is just around the element tree with a weak reference. Let's see, that's what it's using element watcher for. Gotcha. We talked to builder. All right. Signal. We know about the core signal, core computed. Ticker we just looked at. Signals mixing. So you're talking about. Do you remember this example here in the comment here? So we said with signals mixing, you can use your create signal, create computed, and then or create effect, and then it would manage the disposal. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, here's the
This
signal
is here.
mixer. All right.
So this is the
Here's
signal
the
mixing
magic.
itself. Here's all the signals. You got a cleanup function, effect cleanup. Okay. Dispose a particular signal by its ID. Simple enough. Remove it. If it's not null, then dispose it and clean it up. We're going to internal rebuild. Rebuild at the right time. Sure. Post frame callback. Run the effect. Set up. Watch. Add into the list. Set it up. Unwatch. Sure. Yeah, and then you're just basically running each of your functions and binding that to the local. Again, it just sticks it into that array, right? And then what's going to happen is, so these are going to call like so this is very much like the like create signal, create async signal, create list signal, set signal.
Mm-hmm.
You can also bind. So if you've already got an existing signal, you can bind it into the scope to be watched and unwatched. So that means you don't have to like create. You have to have signals created, right? And you have, okay. So listen signal, which is just a nice. The other ones is syntax sugar around that and your effects, and then dispose is just clean up signals and effects, which just goes through your locally registered ones and cleans them up. Usual stuff, right? It's just a bit of syntax sugar around management of that. And then your signal provider. I feel like there's I may oh, that's cool.
What?
Inherited note. It's just based off of inherited notifier. So because his signals are value notifiers, right? The really cool thing about that is you can just wrap it in an inherited notifier, and now you've got an inherited widget for your signal, right? Bosh, done.
Wow. Yeah.
I wonder if there's I feel like there's it's just doing what I was doing in the code right now, which is the depend on inherited widget find the standard signal provider of interesting. Okay, so I think that there's definitely room for like maybe an extension method on context, which is a nice wrapper around this.
Mm-hmm.
But equally, this can only provide one signal down the tree by its type. So I think that there's room for. I wonder if maybe it's worth having a. I can see why he doesn't want to do this, right? Like the whole signals thing is not about dependency injection in the Flutter tree, right?
Mm-hmm.
Although he does provide that default signal provider, it's not, and it uses an inherited notifier, so it's kind of like just worked out the box.
Cool.
Anyway, right, cool. Now's enough, and we've gone on long enough. We've gone for another 20 minutes, as we said.
Good enough.
All right.
Excellent.
So,
well, I have my homework for next week. I will definitely be digging into this deeper. I want to take a look at the test suite to see just what the quality of tests are and how you write tests with on meta tests on Signal as well. So it'll be interesting to check
that'll be
that out.
interesting, yeah. I will briefly just answer this question because ShadCN was made by one of the authors that one of the packages I spoke about. I think I tried it and I've had nothing but bugs with it. It needs a lot of work still. It's still early days. In literally the first use case, I couldn't customize the font. There's a bug in that. I had three or four different like problems. It wasn't like just pick it up and use it, which is what I wanted with the ShadCN stuff. So yeah, I definitely like to see it. I really like the idea. It just needs a bit more bit more tender loving care, a bit more TLC. Right. Well, thanks everyone for coming. And we're going to do some more signals and state management next week.
Yeah.
All right. Well, bye for now. Bye.